from transcending that man-made order, so the program we went towards a natural order of
All right. Before you, I think there is a chapter difference, right?
yes.
So I would like to mention that that first part you have done a beautiful lateral thinking using the concepts of your knowing. You have translated that knowing into interpreting some current realities. That's beautiful. That's what is required.
Thank you,
And
sir.
you have taken a single instance of some course advertisements, and you have identified on your own the possible probable mindsets and mental traps and other aspects. Beautiful.
Thank you, sir. um, then so the next so moving towards a natural order, so now we are trying to get out of this system of language and reach the stage of genius in self, where we bloom to our full expression of our potential. So in this, the first intent is to attain the creative original perspective, or the original perceptions, seeing things as is without being clouded by our mental impressions of the meanings of words. And the second aspect is transcending classifications of ourself and surroundings. So where I judge myself based on my past experiences or how I performed in the past as a good, bad, or failure or success. So going beyond that classification, and even the role positions and names, such as calling myself an architect, it immediately brings to mind certain expectations on how I should behave and perform and do. So transcending those also. So I have been trying to identify what my being is, because the being does not need a name to do what it does, and the being is just what it is. And the third intent is expanding to the maximum potential. So in the past 9 months, I have devoted my time to uh, learning all sorts of things that I've been wanting to do since a long time, such as doing architectural work. So I have been doing a few competitions, etc., and studying Vastu, yoga, piano, and music classes. And I've been spending time reading, writing, and doing research and reflection. And recently, I have even begun to verify each time when I do whether I'm doing the best possible thing that I can, or am I just sticking to a requirement and limiting myself by that. Um, so, genius in self, genius refers to the attendant spirit, and the self is the creature. And so the program is mainly intended at invoking the attendant spirit in us. And the way we did this was redesigning, setting, and configuring the creature self. um,
Yeah,
so
here because you are using or what you call revisiting the concept of genius in the context of its referent. Genius is a term. The first referent is attendant spirit, uh, but that referent also is not clear. Um, it is something that you might experience when you are in spirit, when you are spirited to do something. So that attendant spirit, and the word attendant means the whatever you set call whenever you want. So
yes.
spirit here means let's say spirit energy. So when you have that original energy of the entity, the total energy, which is equally available, then that energy will operate in whatever you do. It will
Yes.
operate equally in your acts of knowing, or in the ways of your knowing, or in the dimensions of your knowing, uh, or in the ways and dimensions of your doing, and it is ever present in the being. So the spirit operates in being. So then the flow, the sequence of unfolding happens from the being to knowing, and then the being doing the doing according to the knowing. Then the spirit is the common factor. Like a little child is all the time in spirits, in good spirits. So if you look at the word inspiration, one of the core words always find in the literature of creativity, the moment of inspiration. Inspiration meaning getting spirited. Inspire meaning to fire. So there also the element, the spur is there, spirit. So inspiration, I-N space S-P-I-R-A.
I T.
Here there is an A in order to facilitate the what you call the morpheme, or the what you call the word structure. So otherwise it would have been INSPIRIT
Hmm.
in spiritation. So that is not possible. So what you call the convenience of pronunciation of words, it is called a morpheme. So therefore it was made SPIRAT. So otherwise it is also getting spirited to continue your search, to continue your doing, to continue maintain your uh, the childlike unbroken equilibrium. So that is what is genius. So with that spirit, that means with that inspiration, or being inspired when you do your choices of action, that is called genius. Inspired in the ways of your expressions and responses and behaviors, actions and ways of relationships, and doing of your language outside and inside. That's what genius is in our context. All
Yes.
right, proceed, Aswathy.
Yes, sir. So design, setting, configuration are three aspects. We had discussed it in the last session also. So set design is the intended way of uh, arrangement of things, the design of it. The setting is the uh, the context of it, and the configuration is the form it
No, no,
takes.
no, no, wait. Setting is the implementation of that intention.
Yes.
Like you make an architectural design on the paper or in the computer, okay? That's the design.
Yes.
But setting would require actually installing or constructing all that varied aspects of materials and etc. into according to the design, and
Yes.
constructing the building. In other
Yes.
words, for example, you cannot live in a design.
Mm.
You need the building. So that building is the setting. Get the
Okay.
point?
Yes. So I thought setting is more like the arrangement of.
No, no, no. Of course, it involves arrangement. That's all coming under that. Of
Okay.
course, arranging the components and elements in a certain way or according to the design is called setting. The act of setting. And the setting is actually a verb as well as noun.
Yes,
As
sir.
a verb, it involves the act of arranging or placing items in according to the design. That's the verb of setting, the action of setting. Then once it is done, you use the same word as the noun. Oh, it is a good setting. That's all. All
Okay.
right. So in case of design, the verb is in the designing by adding that gerund ing. But the thing we will call a design. But in setting, already the ing is there. Ing means the suffix ing. It's otherwise called gerund. Gerund in grammar implies always some activity, some continuity. You know,
Yes, sir.
So putting into setting, you're bringing the bricks and putting it into the place, applying the mortar.
Yes.
It is the act of setting, and or you're bringing the windows and fixing onto the walls, then and so on and so forth. The act of setting. Then once it is all finished, you can say, now the setting is over. Now it's a good setting. It is the noun setting.
Hmm. Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. So you also use the word setter,
Hmm.
the one who is doing the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. So, but in that case, configuration would also mean the same thing.
Uh, uh, yeah, more or less, but uh, yeah, more or less configuring. Yeah,
Okay.
but the unique individuality of that word is applicable because the design is there in a sheet or, of course, in the computer screen or in a printed form, and the varied set of people, let us say, huge complex which you normally design, like a university building or such complex of buildings. Okay, so every individual part may have its unique configuration also.
Hmm. Hmm.
So configuration is a term by which you can direct the attention of people with much more focus.
Hmm.
For example, let us say on one side of the building there is a dome.
Hmm.
So when you say look at the setting of the dome, that is okay, but you can say the dome is configured on the left side of the tower. You know,
Hmm.
you can also say the dome is set on the left side of the tower.
Hmm.
So, but there was it was not that setting was accomplished by having the total figure in mind. Configure meaning having that achieving or approximating to the total figure, the total form of that building.
Hmm.
Whereas setting is the precise act involved. Setting is a closer term. By setting certain things, you're also configuring certain parts of the building. So
Hmm.
that's okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. So, so regarding redesigning and setting ourselves, myself, the first step was realizing that I don't know the things that I know, and how taken for granted everything is because of language. Uh, and the second training was in the art of seeing through referent and referent reality perception, and by training the engines of intellect through attention and observation, reflection, perception, and the art of questioning and conceptualizing and reconceptualizing. So, through all the parables and everything we analyzed, our ability to see was first developed, and then
Wait.
yes,
These are opportunities which I also would like to use a little bit to remind you to reflect more on that seeing aspect.
yes,
That may need a little bit of inspired reflection. Because you have to develop that power to almost instantly see as somebody is talking something. Because you cannot ask the person to wait there and you finish your seeing and then come back.
yes, sir.
One, two, the doing of seeing may be relatively easy vis-a-vis physical settings and design and so-called configurations.
Mm.
It would be complex when you come to concepts and ideas of a higher orbit, like a genius, like uh, a parable. What is the referent of a parable? When we talked about the master thief taking the son to the palace, uh, did you really pause to consider what all possible, probable uh, doings and conveying of knowings might have happened during that journey?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That is, of course, left to our imagination and visualization, and we may not be able to really conceptualize or visualize it because we are not really sure about the kind of instructions and the kind of lessons the Master Thief might have imparted to his son. But we must at least appreciate and just wonder in silence, closing our eyes, the journey of that young boy, 15-year-old boy, for the first time out of the campus of his house, walking with a master father with whom he had a rare interactions, hmm, and walking with him in the night time, okay, from the morning till dead midnight, apparently without having water and food. Just imagine the training, the rigorous training received by that little boy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the kind of inspiration the master, the father might have induced in him. Would the boy ask the father, would he have asked him, "Mm, I want to drink water, I want to have food, I am tired, where are you taking me? You're not sure. Because communication between son and master's father and the son culture of that time was not that as friendly and easy and free as normally it happens in the other homes. Even if he was terribly hungry, he would not have dared to talk about that to the father. The father
That's
might not have given a gap for him to ask for food and water.
Mm.
Yeah, just possibilities. Need not be like that. They could drink water from some rivulet. They could eat some fruits on the trees or some tube roots. I mean, whatever. It is possible, but you can appreciate. That is again physical visualization. How do you visualize or how do you see the very inside of your creature? How do you do that? Are you successful in doing that? Of course, you have a metaphor there. Unlike a parable, much more clear diagrams of the inside world of the very creature that you is right now. How did you do that? Did you keep the visual of that diagram in the mind and then recalled that attention back to the body and verified it? And when you verify it, of course, you could not see that, visualize that. Of course, visualization is possible. But there, more than visualization, uh, could you really sense the inside? That is the referent perception, or the art of seeing in that case involves that. Because it is referent reality perception. It is not referent reality seeing. Perception would involve the net result of all the sensations or sense data together. And for the inside, there is no normal senses available, which I discussed the other day. There is that proprioceptive sense as well as the interoceptive sense that needs to be developed gradually. Then only a referent reality perception of the insides of the creature is really possible.
Yes, sir.
Or we already talked about the number one. Number one meaning there is no number two. The number one or the supreme paramount importance of the power of attention. What is the referent of attention? What is that? What is the nature of that attention? What is the design and setting and process that we name attention? How do we access it, even when it is operating all the time? Like the moment of enlightenment, attention is all the time operating, even during your sleep. Okay? It is 100% operating. So How would you see the referent reality of attention? For that, you have to use your attention. Like language is
Right.
taught by language, that
Mhm.
referent of attention can be accessed only by the power of attention. How can the same thing touch itself?
Mm.
Or how will you bend the amoeba of attention, the pseudopodia of attention to project and boomerang back upon itself? How would you extend the slight tentacles of a beam of attention and bend it back to see itself or to perceive itself? So these are the questions you may have to devise further. All right, Ashwati.
Yes, sir. Um, so because uh, it requires attention as the primary thing to make any other changes to other things. So after we train our attention, the next step was preparing the creature to know, do, and be. So for that, directing our attention to the workings of our mind, body, intelligence, intellect, and spirit was crucial. And in in my daily life also, I try to apply these learnings in uh, seeing how my mind is being influenced by uh, emotions that are trained by our environment to respond in certain ways and to be disappointed or happy in certain circumstances. And training the body, I think yoga has helped me in that, in observing the body, and it's and at least trying to feel its workings, although at a very peripheral level. uh, and of course, intelligence and intellect is the intellect particularly is the primary focus of the of our training so far. And the spirit, the being of me also, I have been trying to identify exactly what it is.
And that intellect will remain the focus till the end also, principal focus. Because
Yes, sir.
intellect is the major significant difference of the human
Mm.
being vis-a-vis all other entities.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah. So once the creature is ready to invoke the attendant spirit by uh, sharpening its facilities, then faculties, I would say.
Parvati, you have to reconsider what you said just now. You said once the creature is ready to engage with the spirit,
Uh,
creature is all the time ready.
Right.
Creature is in tune with the spirit. It is the consciousness or the will or that director of consciousness. Apparently, if you use that term now, the you, the so-called you in you, the that operating uh, stylus, okay, which is having a touchless touch on that fast, random moving uh, uh, engines of intellect. Virtually, we can distinguish, we can differentiate that existent tuning between the creature and the so-called spirit. So, creature is carrying all these things. Creature is uh, integral, or rather, spirit is the integral energy field of the creature.
yes, sir.
All right, yeah.
But
It is the directing of the will by which you try to tune the creature with the spirit. Yes. Sorry. The creature spirit tuning will be recognized. That's all.
Mm. Yes, sir.
Creature doesn't have to be specifically tuned to the spirit. That is a blocking idea. No, no, no. If the spirit is there, or rather, if the will is operating on the spirit, the creature will do.
Right.
Like in a martial arts training. It was told that when tsunami happened in India, I mean in the southern part of India, for example, in a place called Kollam in Kerala, one man who was paralyzed for some 23 years and all the time lying on the bed, he just got up and ran away. Hmm. So that tuning has been all the time there, but the will was not able to tap it. That's all. Here in this context, the will got it tapped because of the terrible pressure of the survival. I mean, getting out of danger of death. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay.
But if you look at it like that, in a way, what you call, literally, you are right. Because unless it is accessed, you will not know it. So, in that process of accessing, it is equivalent to creature getting tuned with the spirit available in that. That also must be happening there.
Mm.
All right.
Yes. And then uh, it requires directing the will and trusting the creature to access the attendant spirit. uh, Directing the will to know what to point the attention towards and what to do, and then the doing is done by the creature only. uh, for example, when I play the piano, anytime I consciously try to observe and do with awareness and knowing on what how I'm playing, then it becomes very difficult. But if I just let it be, and if I just let the body learn how to move, then it happens automatically. uh, so even in yoga, actually, when I was trying to learn to do the handstand, the all the knowings, they were of no use to me, and it only the body had to learn how to do it. So it requires that trust in the creature. The So then, coming to the main points that I found important, one is intentionality, or the inbuilt uh, tendency of something by virtue of its design setting process. So this is a property of the spirit, like the spirit of the sword. And so I tried to identify the intentionality and the being of even things and entities and phenomena around me, and especially in architecture and designing spaces. I always try to visualize what does the building do, what is the being of a space by nature, by default, what does it do. And if I don't sense that correctly, then my intention will clash with what the building would do left to itself. So uh, in bringing together the spirit of a place, but the nature of a place by intent, by nature what it is like, and the intent of a building, uh, in this the idea of intentionality was very important, I realized.
In fact, actually, uh,
So,
in let's say from the intentionality of things and phenomena perspective, a great architecture is nothing but an equilibrium of the intentionality of the design and setting of the building to be in tune with the intentionality of every item that will go inside the building. Every chair, every what you call table, coat, fan, whatever, whatsoever.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes. Um, then another important learning for me was overcoming the self-importance trap to quite a large extent. So earlier, I always tried to be too perfect in my doings, and due to which in during my college days I would not submit things on time, and I caused a lot of problems for myself because I was always trying to bring out the perfect design, the perfect drawing, and then in the end I won't achieve it. So I got over the trap of trying to do only the perfect thing and maintaining that image of myself due to self importance. And now I have the freedom of mind to make mistakes, and I don't uh, evaluate my self image on that basis. I learn from my mistakes. Um, and Developing the freedom to sing was also a big step for me. That was a very important development. And I tried singing songs on Smule, and Sir also sings on Smule, and that was also very inspiring to me. And
Right.
yeah, and nowadays I'm not that affected by criticism, um, which is again a very important development.
Right.
yeah, that is extremely important. Though it may appear very innocuous or simple,
Yes, sir.
actually, every moment when another person is present before you, there is an unconscious triggering of that criticism. He or she or they may not do or say anything, but still they will serve as a kind of a cue to uh, make you feel something similar to being criticized.
Yes, sir.
In the sense that, for example, somebody is sitting in a room very carelessly, let us say so, if he is alone, and as soon as the very servant, someone who is, let us say, a very neglected servant woman, enters the building, suddenly he would change the way he has been sitting, or he has been, the way his dressing was, and so on and so forth.
Yes, sir.
Unknowingly, it is done. So, to that extent of peripheral level, that so-called criticism operates, because it started from childhood. You have to sit like this. What other people will think, or other people may, what other people would think implies that criticism. What other people would think meaning what other people would say. What other people would say meaning it involves that so-called criticism.
Yes, sir.
So, absolute freedom from criticism, rather inviting criticism and feeling thrilled about being criticized. In fact, even that you have to consciously cultivate. And of course, you can accept if there is something valid also. All right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Um,
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt Ashwati as well. Can you please clarify that statement? Sorry to break the flow. Or later also.
No, no, no. No later. What is that?
which
You said be open to criticism, invite criticism.
And enjoy criticism.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I said that, yes, yeah. What is the question there, Tintin?
The question was you said, like, going back to the setting or the sequence, when a person is in the room and maybe very carelessly uh, sitting there in the way it's comfortable for them, even when a servant arrives, subconsciously uh, they change the way they are sitting, etc., because it's been thought or it is induced in the mind, trained.
Yeah,
From
of
that
course.
point of view, inviting criticism is like a paradoxical or the other side of the spectrum, right? So,
Yeah, that's a way to transcend that earlier conditioned unconscious programs of the mind. So you consciously try to surpass it. That's all.
okay, sir.
Because otherwise, unknowingly, you may be affected by criticisms. Unknowingly, you may become victim of that criticism of somebody, and it will affect your energy field. Understand one thing, Tintin. We are talking about absolutely one higher level of the human entity. The tuning, the energy flow. If human being is an energy flow, okay,
Yes, sir.
that flow shall not be disturbed by anything. Let us say that energy flow is somewhat like the magnetic field that you see in the drawing of magnetic fields. Okay, look at the harmony, look at the integrity, look at the design setting of the magnetic field. You see, it's almost like an assemblage of million flower. Very, very beautiful, right?
Yes, sir.
There is no zigzag lines, there is no cut across lines. It is very beautifully aligned because it's a material, it's a physical material. So the energy field or the magnetic field, of course, which is an energy field, is very properly aligned, like the alignment of the wheel of a four-wheel vehicle. So that original energy field is similarly aligned in a child. But of course, the bombardment of the environment cause various corrugations, various scars, various holes, various bendings and blockings and zigzagging of that original energy field. So when we talk about the genius himself, you have to achieve that stage where your energy field remains intact. So when you feel defeated for a moment, when you feel worried, when you feel affected by the criticism, uh, I told you worry or feeling defeated. That all we have to look at the referent of what is worry, referent of disappointment, referent of whatever that is caused by criticism. That is yet unclear, but definitely there is an autonomic. You remember the autonomic nervous system. There is an impulse ratio discordance happening when you are subjected to criticism. I mean, if you are affected by criticism, and in an environment, it may not be that easy to be unaffected by criticism. Of course, the presence of the servant I made as a metaphor, as an example to understand. But in what situations people may look at you critically, they may make critical comments or to talk at other level in the so-called intimate relationships, it affects the most. The wife criticizing the husband criticizing the wife, or the parents criticizing the child and all that. Of course, little children, maybe up to the age of 20, 23, they are still very, what you call, very flexible. So if any injury or intimidation happened to the energy field till roughly about 23, 24, 25, it would be automatically bouncing back to the original, depending upon the kind of offenses. But the marital, so-called marital conflict, which is often actually created by criticism only, not by so-called disagreements, by criticism. Even when there's a disagreement, uh, let us say the wife wants mutton fry, and the husband says, "Okay, let us have some vegetable today." So there is a disagreement. That is okay. Then the husband says, "Oh, you always want only mutton and things like that. Why can't you have vegetable one day?" So that involves a criticism element. Or the wife says, you don't want to do what I say." There hides criticism. So criticism is not necessarily what normally people understand, like a film criticism or literary criticism. So that also you have to develop. Or when you are in an interaction with somebody, you have to be a little bit anticipating how you would be responding to so-called comments and dialogues which would hide the element of criticizing you. Then you can be cool. So what often happens is once you witness or once you become a victim of criticism because of the feeling of defeat or failure or feeling low, LOW low, there's a tendency to retaliate and give back that feeling to the other person.
Right.
That's all. Yeah, did I answer to the question, Tintin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right.